Welcome to Tech Tip Tuesday. This episode is about racing engines for the S58. I want to remind everybody that the technology we're talking about applies to all of our engines, whether it be a V8, S63, or any other model. The technology is still the same, it's just a different application.
Right. R&D spans across multiple engine platforms, right? But the basis of the fundamentals of why we arrive at the decisions we do will work on your V8 or your straight six powered BMW.
The reason we picked this engine, it's our most popular one.
Yep.
It's what people are tuning the most these days.
I would agree. It's a very popular engine.
Yes. So racing engines. The point of a racing engine is to make maximum power. It's not to make maximum life.
Yes.
It's to make the engine stay together while making maximum power, but we know when we make a lot of power and we compromise the engine on a day-to-day driving durability, we're adding durability to the high power application when we're making high power, but we're shortening the overall engine life of
the total lifespan.
Total lifespan. So it really varies a lot. We're talking about how long an engine will last. It really depends a lot on how you drive the car.
I think you need to set some goals, and then you need to think about how am I going to drive this vehicle.
Right. So if you're going to make an engine that makes 1,000, 12, 1,300 horsepower, serious amount, it's not a daily driver anymore.
No, you're going to sacrifice low-end response for top-end power to get to 1,300 horsepower, so it's not going to be very good from a stop sign or a stoplight.
Right. And you're right away taking like a third of the engine life out just because of how the engine's built.
Sure.
Which is fine. I mean, the point of these kind of cars is you keep them in your garage, you go to an event, you run the car at the event, you come back and put them in the garage, you don't drive them to work every day.
Correct.
Well, what that does mean is the engine spends a lot more time at boost and a lot less time under a light load. And so
if you think, the minutes that the engine spends at high load go up in proportion to a road car or a daily driven vehicle.
Yes.
Where it might be 10% of the time at full throttle with a lot of boost.
Yes.
Versus this engine at 1,300 horsepower is probably spending 70% of its life at high RPM full load.
Right. Just to give you a reference, we race in GT4, a BMW M4, which is the exact same engine.
S58.
S58 engine. It's a stock engine. It's detuned for the racing series, so the other cars that have less power can compete with it.
Sure.
So it makes 455 horsepower, just under 400 horsepower rear wheel.
And the factory S58 makes over 500.
Right.
So we're 10% down on what?
10% down. And we're still, according to BMW, they give you a mileage they think the engine will last. They tell you the engine's good for 18,000 miles.
Right.
Okay, that's because you leave the pits and you're on the gas and you're racing, and then you park the car and shut it off. You're not wrong.
I absolutely do that.
Yeah. So you're not going back and forth to the grocery store with it. So the fact that this engine will normally last 150,000 miles means that 95% of your time you're not in boost.
Right.
And if you were in boost all the time, since it makes 10% more power, it probably wouldn't even last 18,000 miles.
Correct.
Right. So it's not just the engine itself that causes the engine life to be shortened, it's how the engine's used.
Yeah. Warm-up cycles, oils chosen, time spent at boost, high RPM use.
Right, all those things.
Yeah.
When we used to do our natural aspirated racing engines for Daytona, we used to life the engines every 30 hours. And we'd run one engine all the way through the roar in practice, put a fresh one in for the last warm-up to make sure there was nothing wrong with it. We'd run the 24-hour race, and the engine would have 26 or 27 hours on it was done. We had a 3-hour cushion.
That's not very uncommon. I've raced for a lot of brands in my career. Ones with horses on the badge, from Germany, from Italy, from all over the place. And generally, 24 hours for a 24-hour race, the motors are used at that event and then they're replaced.
Yes. So it probably would last significantly longer than that, probably 50 or 60 hours. But in a racing application, you want to make sure you don't lose a championship because the engine fails. So you change it significantly before you think you're reaching its life limit, just like you do with a jet engine on an airplane. You don't want that engine to fail.
Yeah, you don't wait till it blows up and then fix it.
Right, because you might kill a couple hundred people on the plane. That's always bad for business,
yes.
Right? Makes people afraid to fly.
Well, if they weren't afraid, they are now.
Anyway, the main differences on a racing engine versus a street car version engine is we use the same connecting rod, but like we talked in our last video, we center the wrist pin, and the reason we center the wrist pin is so when it fires, there's no side load on the piston.
Right.
And this makes more power, as well as will handle the power without the piston rubbing too hard in the cylinder walls and scuffing and damaging the cylinder walls and the piston. We use the same rings. They're really good rings. And then we go to a stronger head gasket. And this is made by a company called Cometic. It's a multi-layer steel gasket. And they make two different versions of this. They make one for higher boost. It requires more pressure to crush.
Right.
Okay. And we use a different ARP stud. This is a lower torque ARP stud, 90, and this one goes 110 pounds, and it's a thicker shaft to put more clamp load on the head gasket so that it won't leak.
Which is required when you're using the racing head gasket.
Correct. Now, we've run the standard head gasket, BMW head gasket, and the standard ARP step up to 1100 rear wheel horsepower.
Right, but if you're looking for 13, you need to fortify your engine to go a little bit higher than that.
Yeah, when we recommend over 850, we go to this because we always like a couple hundred horsepower cushion before anybody's gonna have a problem. So we go to this head gasket as soon as we think you're gonna make more than 1,000 flywheel, which is 850 rear wheel.
Sure.
Now, the reason that we don't use this head gasket in standard engines, I always get the question as well, if it's a better head gasket and a better stud, why don't you use it in all of them?
Yeah.
Because it takes more pressure to crush, sometimes it doesn't crush completely. It will crush completely to seal a combustion chamber, but it will hold the outer surfaces off the deck of the block and sometimes will ooze water and oil down the side of the engine.
Seepage of coolant or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So sometimes the engine can ooze a little bit. Again, when you have a racing engine and you're not running it very long, it's called 5,000
the
miles.
expected life is shorter.
Right, expected life is shorter. Then you know that if it oozes a little bit of oil, it's not a big deal. And most racing engines will ooze a little bit here and there when they run hard. And we put a new head gasket on 5,000 or 10,000 miles later, because when you run a racing engine, you're racing it and you're rebuilding it, you're racing it and rebuilding it, and that's the nature of the beast.
It is.
So BMW has this really good silicone sealing, a lower tension ring on the OEM head gasket. It will easily seal with a bolt, much less the stud. The stud adds a little extra clamp and a bigger safety margin. But it makes a good road car head gasket, doesn't make good racing gasket, and the racing head gasket doesn't make a good road car gasket.
Again, pick and choose what you're trying to accomplish and build it the correct way from day one.
Right. So also we talked about earlier about trapped mass in the combustion chamber and making sure that this valve doesn't bounce. If you're running more boost, you need a stiffer valve spring. So we have one valve spring for the road car engine and one valve spring for the racing engine.
You would almost need to decide a range of boost you're hoping to run to
Correct.
be able to select the correct valve spring in the build of the engine from the get-go. Right? Give yourself the range you need. It's not going to be to 1 PSI, but it'll probably be a range of 5.
Yeah, I mean, the standard valve spring that we use is good to about 35 pounds of boost. The racing valve spring is good to about 45 pounds of boost. Yeah. Not that it gets to that number and all of a sudden it's not going to work.
Sure.
It's just not.
Less efficient when it goes
It's
over
just
that.
not optimal. Now, again, like we talked earlier, when you run a stiffer valve spring, it's more valve train wear.
Yeah. So your camshaft wear goes up, the whole valve train wear goes up.
Right. And it also robs power if you're not making the boost. So buying a stage 3 racing engine,
And running it at low boost is probably not optimal.
no, you're going to make less power. The engine's going to wear out sooner. It's going to make more noise.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you run more valve spring tension, the Vanos mechanism, the variable cam mechanism, has a hard time tracking the requested positions. So I think we're unique. I think we're the only one in the business that has done this. We have an external oil passage on the S58 that goes directly to the Vanos mechanism off the oil galley to feed extra oil to it. So the Vanos will track and the cam position will remain where it's supposed to be or where you've programmed it to go.
Under higher loads.
Under higher loads and under higher boost pressures.
Yeah.
And mostly it's a result of the Vanos has a hard time fighting the extra valve spring tension.
Sure.
Right, is what it's really doing, because it was designed for stock valve springs.
Yeah.
And BMW
You've added resistance to the natural movement of the system.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. The other thing we do on this particular engine is we add a racing camshafts made by a company called
GSC.
GSC. Really nice part. More acceleration on the ramps. It opens the valves faster. Not really more lift. Adds a significant amount of power at high RPM. But again, not as much power at low RPM when you're leaving a stoplight. So again, not as good of a road car engine.
And I think, but it's important to talk about the trade-off, right? Most turbocharged motors make heaps of torque. Like they almost have a surplus of torque in the mid-range. Mid-range torque is generally what creates wheel spin or traction losses. So if you are trying to build a big number in a big power engine that's more high RPM oriented, a little bit of a trade-off in lack of torque and higher top-end power would be warranted.
Yes. Yeah, and again, it's for the application. The other thing, we also make a 3.2 liter stroked version of the racing engine as well. Has less turbo lag, adds even more power, but the crankshaft is a billet crankshaft carved out of a solid hunk of metal. It's not a forged crankshaft.
Yeah, those ones are nice looking pieces.
Right.
It's a shame they live inside an engine.
Yes, yeah, they're really pretty. And like we talked in our road car video, we make a stroker motor. That's the right one. We change the pin to crown height, so the piston is shorter. Now the reason we do that is when you make a lot of power, okay, and the rod's at a severe angle, when the piston goes down and puts side load against the bore and causes the bore to wear, this robs power and wears out the engine. We want to straighten the rod up, so we make the piston shorter so we can make the rod longer.
Right.
This will make the engine live longer.
Right.
And also, it will make more top-end power. And that concludes our section on racing engines. Thanks for joining us on Tech Tip Tuesday today.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and head to carbahn.com for more information.